Today, we look at the early contenders of the upcoming Big Ten basketball season. If you haven't yet, please share and subscribe to help grow the channel, and I hope you enjoy the video. Today's video is powered by SeatGeek. Get $20 off any tickets sold using promo code Wright on the SeatGeek app or website. The 2020-2021 Big Ten season was interesting. Dominant all year long in the national rankings, at one point having 3 top 5 teams towards the end of the year. It was rated as not just the toughest the Big Ten has ever been, but the toughest conference period ever in the Ken Pom era. Michigan, the regular season champions, and then Illinois, the Big Ten tournament champions, were 1 seeds in the tourney. While 9 total teams ended up making the tournament, only Michigan got to the second weekend. Despite a disappointing performance in the NCAAs, it shouldn't take away from some of the great games we saw during the Big Ten season. In the offseason, we saw the transfer portal go crazy all over the country. Some teams rebuilt, some teams recruited well, some teams lost guys, coaches got let go. Plenty of factors went down. There are still some decisions looming out there, but it's calmed down a bit. And most importantly, we get to see early Big Ten matchups. Which teams will be playing twice, and which teams will be playing only once at home and away. Factoring in all these variables, we have an early look at who I believe are the 7 early contenders. Illinois comes in as the reigning Big Ten tournament champions. They were able to lock down the number 23 recruiting class nationally with 3 players who should provide more length on the perimeter and provide a bit of scoring and shooting. In the transfer portal, they were able to get a couple guys as well. Alfonso Plummer is a 6'1" sharpshooting score-first type guard out of Utah. Omar Payne is a former top 50 player out of Florida who will bring a defensive mindset to the Illini. Hearing he'll be having a longer leash to give Illinois a scoring punch on the block as well. So that's the good news. The tough news is they lost 3 starters. Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn, 2 first-team All-Big Ten selections to the NBA draft, and former top 40 prospect Adam Miller to LSU. They'll have Andre Curbelo to take over the point, with Trent Frazier returning alongside. Austin Hutcherson and Jacob Grandison expect to play big minutes along with DeMonte Williams. When it comes to their schedule, there are 4 teams they play twice who will contend for a top 4 finish in the Big Ten. Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State, and Maryland. Michigan and Purdue being the toughest teams, but Underwood has yet to lose to Juwan Howard and has a 3-game winning streak against Purdue. Toughest 1-game draws are going to be at Indiana and home against Ohio State. Maryland ended up signing 2 players from the 2021 class in Julian Reese and Ike Cornish. Due to how their roster is kind of setting up, I expect at least one of them to contribute and play quite a bit. Eric Ayala and Aaron Wiggins are testing the NBA draft, but think Ayala comes back. Not too sure about Wiggins though. They had glaring issues last year at the point guard and big man spots due to recruiting misses and guys just transferring out. At their best, Maryland was playing with the shooting guard running the point and then 4 small forwards. Turgeon did a good job addressing that issue on the same day out of the transfer portal, snagging Fats Russell from Rhode Island and Qudus Wahab from Georgetown right down the street. Fats is a talented guard, but he's a volume guy. Doesn't shoot the ball well from 3 or from 2. 37% of his points last year came from the free throw line. He's going to have to greatly adjust his game and improve for the Terrapins to have a shot at contending this season. Qudus Wahab put up around 13 and 8 last year, offers some help with the paint dominance, something sorely missed last season. On their Big Ten schedule, they play 4 contending teams twice. They play Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State, and Ohio State. Their toughest 1-game opponents will be away at Michigan and away at Purdue. Ohio State didn't lose much, and on top of that, they were able to shore up some of their positions. One of the better 1-2 punches in the country, Dwayne Washington Jr. and E.J. Liddell, will be testing the NBA draft waters, but believe both will return to Ohio State. And if this happens, they should be one of, if not the favorites to win the Big Ten this year. They return Kyle Young, Justice Suing, Seth Towns, Justin Ahrens. Zed Key will be better, and transfer Joey Brunk will add much-needed depth down low after sitting out last year due to injuries. Michi Johnson was 17 years old playing in the Big Ten. He should be more mature and developed heading into this season. Penn State defensive-minded Jamar Wheeler will also add depth to the backcourt. Not much has changed with Ohio State's core group, but they've expanded their roster with tons of new talent, including one of the top shooting guards in the country, Malachi Branham. Their schedule also favors them. They'll be playing 3 of my contending teams twice, Michigan, Indiana, and Maryland. and the two toughest one-game matchups will be at Illinois and at Purdue. Purdue is the rare team that didn't dip their toes in the transfer portal. Trevion Williams is testing the NBA draft, but I won't be surprised if he returns to school. Assuming Williams comes back, the Boilermakers return their top 8 players after finishing 4th in the league last year as the 16th or 17th youngest team in the country. Not only do you have those guys returning, but then the 2 top players from Indiana, Trey Kaufman and Caleb Furst, come in as freshmen to support the backcourt. Fully expect Jaden Ivey to take that next step to all Big Ten status at minimum. Sharpshooting Sasha Stefanovic returns, and he should be back to full strength. 7'4" Zach Edey was a nice surprise last year, and look forward to him going another level. Purdue's schedule doesn't hurt them much either. Playing against 3 contenders twice, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. The last time Purdue lost to Indiana was when Tom Crean was there. So that will be a series I will be paying very close attention to. Their toughest one-game matchups will be home against Ohio State. The last time Ohio State played at Mackey was a heartbreak loss to Oral Roberts, so the Buckeyes will be playing with more juice in that game. And then they'll be playing away at Michigan State. This past season, Purdue completed a 17-point second-half comeback to win in East Lansing. Indiana, in my opinion, will contend for a top 4 seed. They're the only school in this video who has gone through a coaching change. It's not that I think Mike Woodson is some, Hoosier savior. I just think the roster needed a different voice to lead them. Talent was not the issue. It was the development, in my opinion. I think Indiana was the same team from year to year. But this staff was able to keep some of their high talented guys in the program, starting with Trace Jackson Davis. All Big Ten, almost put his name in the NBA draft, but decided to come back. Christian Lander struggled last year, but is a former 5-star talent. Rob Finney returns along with shooter Anthony Lill. Race Thompson comes back too, but think Indiana did a great job in the transfer portal, getting guys like Miller Kopp out of Northwestern who will add size, shooting, depth, toughness. Xavier Johnson out of Pitt, Parker Stewart, who will both add to the backcourt. And in his first month of coaching, Woodson lands a 5-star recruit in Tamar Bates, a shooting guard out of IMG Academy. They'll need time to gel in the non-conference with so many different pieces coming together. They get 3 contenders twice, Purdue, Maryland, and Ohio State, while getting Michigan and Illinois once at home, which bodes well for them with fans coming back. Michigan State comes in with the top 10 recruiting class in the country and the number 2 class in the Big Ten. I believe 2 of their recruits will be playing 15-plus minutes per game right away. Number 1 shooting guard in the class, Max Christie, and top 10 point guard, Jaden Akins. Michigan State struggled last year similar to Maryland, never got consistent production out of the point guard and center spots. So they played shooting guards at the point and had a 5-person rotation at the center position, and whoever was doing well that day played the most. But this offseason showed more attrition than I think I've ever seen from a Tom Izzo team. Out of their top 10 guys in minutes, only 5 return, and the top 3-minute guys are gone, and Aaron Henry, Josh Langford, and Rocket Watts. Leaves big holes in the roster, which got filled by a good recruiting class and transfer in Tyson Walker, who's one of the top scorers in the country and the Colonials' Defensive Player of the Year. Expect returning players Gabe Brown, Malik Hall, Joey Hauser, and Marcus Bingham to play big roles. Main concern with this team is how much they struggle with Al Cassius and Xavier Tillman, and then Aaron Henry put the team on his back, play like one of the top guys in the entire country. Now Michigan State doesn't have any of those guys. There are still some huge shoes to fill. Their schedule helps them out though, facing Illinois, Maryland, and Michigan twice, and then their hardest single game opponent being at Ohio State, but they're able to host Indiana and Purdue. Michigan brings in the number 1 recruiting class in the country and are the reigning Big Ten champions. Their big losses are Franz Wagner to the NBA, Isaiah Livers, Austin Davis, Mike Smith, and Shondi Brown. And as of this video being made, I believe Michigan is one of 3 or 4 high major schools who did not lose a player to the portal. But they did dip their toes in the portal. Mike Smith started at the point guard spot and it left an immediate void to be filled once he left. Frankie Collins is one of the top point guards in the country coming in. Eli Brooks is staying. Zeb Jackson just finished his first year, but Juwan Howard left nothing to chance by going out to get Devontae Jones out of Coastal Carolina, one of the top scorers in the country. Averaged 7 assists one year and 7 rebounds this past year. I think he'll be a triple-double threat all season long. Michigan also returns Big Ten Freshman of the Year and All-American Hunter Dickinson. Brandon Johns will have a bigger role. Caleb Houston and Musa Giabate look to play right away. Frankie Collins, Kobe Buffkin, and Zeb Jackson will be battling it out. for minutes at the 1 and the 2 spot. Their schedule doesn't do them any favors though, playing 4 contending teams twice, including Ohio State and Purdue and Michigan State, and then an Illinois team they haven't beaten since January 2019, and they get Indiana on the road in their single game matchup. It should be another great year of Big Ten basketball. Don't think the conference will be as deep, but it'll still be fun to watch. If I were to rank the top 7 as of right now based on who's returning, who's left, and how the schedule favors, I'd say Maryland at number 7. They have tons of questions, not sure if Fats Russell's the answer at the point guard spot, and their schedule is pretty tough. Illinois at number 6, they no longer have their 2 best players in Adam Miller. They'll need to learn a different way how to win this year. Feeding the 7-foot, 300-pound post and the ISO with the 6'5 pro guard are no longer going to be available to them. Indiana at number 5. They return a core who wasn't as bad as the record showed last year, playing against some nice transfers and a 5-star recruit. You'll always have a chance with an All-American type player in Trace Jackson Davis, a softer schedule that gives you a 1 game against contenders, Michigan and Illinois at home. Michigan State at number 4, think they have plenty of questions still to be answered, but gave Izzo the nod over Mike Woodson for the spot. Their schedule also helps a lot, probably the most ideal matchups of the contending teams. Michigan at number 3. They won the conference last year. They brought in a great class and a transfer to fill the gaps, but still, take a step back and realize that they lost 5 of their top 8 players, 3 of them starters. Purdue and Ohio State are pretty close. Purdue beat Ohio State twice, lost once in overtime this past year, so I'll go to Ohio State number 2, Purdue number 1. Both of their schedules are pretty similar, but the tiebreak is the 1 game they'll play each other at Purdue. Remember, I'm factoring in who's left, who's come in, the talent, most importantly, looking at the schedule and seeing who has the road of least resistance. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Please don't be a homer for your team. That's just really annoying.
Can't guard me.